is responsible. You should not be putting yourself in a position to get pregnant when you are wise enough to know when you are most fertile. Okay? When you are most fertile and in a position where you can get pregnant, do not have sex. Real simple. You know, it's no different than someone going out there shooting drugs into their arm. You know what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And when you're the one that's going to be responsible for bringing a child into this world that is not going to be properly provided for, and then now you want to sit around and get the whole white population to join side with you and tell you, oh, poor baby, you've been victimized by the poor black man, and you try to ride on that shit, and then you go to the abortion clinic and get an abortion when the first thing you should have did was been a responsible woman and not allowed yourself to get pregnant. That is on you. Just because the white man gives your ass a back door and try to incarcerate your black man and use you as a way to get at him, it does not overlook the person that is responsible for being ignorant. It's the person that ends up pregnant. You are the one with the uterus. You are the one knows when your menstruation comes. You are the one that'll be stuck with a baby if this guy hop on the train tonight after he get through tearing that ass up and disappear forever into the darkness and you never see him again. You'll be the one stuck with that baby. So what your ass need to do is take responsibility of your womanhood and stop acting like a young child and getting pregnant and then want to run to the white man and try to make him feel like he's got to help you go get the bad black man, or take your ass to a clinic and have you open your legs up again so they can butcher your baby outside of you. This is a crime that you are all going to pay for. It is murder. That's all it is. And it's because you are acting like an irresponsible young girl that this abortion rate is so high throughout this country. Grow up.
Has allowed Planned Parenthood and other members of the abortion industry to carry out this genocide right under our very noses. Right now, in America, about half of our babies are being killed in the womb. And in certain parts of America, more of our babies are being aborted than are being born.
When 17,000 aborted babies were found in a dumpster outside of a pathology laboratory in Los Angeles, California, some 12 to 15,000 were observed to be black. Irma Clardy Craven, Chairman, Minneapolis Commission on Human Rights and Secretary of the Urban League.
Now let me tell you something, okay? Anytime you got some people that are so fucked up, now I don't know no other way to say that, okay? But how do you have 17,000 black dead baby bodies in a garbage can? How big was that garbage can to hold that many babies? And how come there wasn't a smell that just had to, be off the hook? You know what I'm saying? Think about it. That is a lot of babies. Let's run this over and see if that's what she said. I don't understand if anybody can say something like that actually happened. Let's see.
This genocide right under our very noses. Right now, in America, about half of our babies are being killed in the womb. And in certain parts of America, more of our babies are being aborted than are being born.
When 17,000 aborted babies were found in a dumpster outside of a pathology laboratory in Los Angeles, California, some 12 to 15,000 were observed to be black. Irma Clardy Craven, Chairman, Minneapolis Commission on Human Rights.
They said that those bodies were stored in formaldehyde in plastic containers.
To understand what the agenda behind the legalization of abortion, all you need to do is look at the statistics from the U.S. government. Studies from the CDC show that prior to the legalization of abortion, approximately 80% of all illegal abortions were done on white women. One study in New York even found that white women had 5 times as many abortions as black women. But at the moment abortion became legal, that began to reverse. And that's why the legalization of abortion was so crucial for the eugenics movement. Legalization created the ability to market abortion in the black community. And from a eugenics standpoint, that changed everything.
These people cannot have it both ways. First, they say that birth control will reduce the number of abortions. Then they flood our neighborhoods with birth control clinics. And what's the result? Our abortion rate skyrockets. So either they lied about the fact that birth control would reduce abortions in our neighborhoods, or this is the results and the purpose they wanted from the beginning. At this point, I truly have the tendency to believe the latter.
In 1973, the year abortion was legalized nationwide, Dr. Christopher Tizzi produced a study on abortion demographics at the request of the Population Council, a New York-based eugenics organization. In this report, Tizzi confirmed previous research showing that when abortion is illegal, the abortion rate is much higher for white women than for black women, but that this completely reverses whenever abortion is legalized. At the time he published these findings, Tizzi was a consultant to both Planned Parenthood and the National Abortion Federation.
Other researchers within the eugenics and abortion movements were also documenting that easy access to abortion clinics produces higher abortion rates in the surrounding area. And at least one expert discovered that having a nearby clinic is a bigger factor in the black abortion rate than it is in the white abortion rate. At the same time this data is being circulated, Planned Parenthood and the rest of the abortion lobby were in the process of locating the vast majority of their facilities in minority neighborhoods. Then in 1974, a study was released on population control that had been conducted by researchers at 3 major universities. By analyzing data obtained from Planned Parenthood's own records, they determined that the #1 factor in deciding whether a county in the United States provided free or low-cost family planning services was not poverty, but race. The researchers said their findings seemed to support the contention of many civil rights activists that such programs are less intended to assist the poor than they are to control the growth of the black population.
Birth control and abortion are turning out to be the great eugenic advances of our time. Frederick Osborne, founding member of the American Eugenics Society, 1973.
The best way to hate a nigger is to hate him before he is born. Leander Perez, Louisiana State Judge, 1970.
I could just puke.
2 years after the director of Iowa Planned Parenthood had publicly attacked the state's eugenics board for not approving enough sterilizations, a bill was introduced in the Iowa legislature to legalize abortion. Despite having the support of both the state Republican Party and the state Democratic Party, as well as strong backing from the governor, the bill would be defeated almost single-handedly by the only African American in the Iowa legislature.
Proponents have argued this bill is for blacks and the poor who want abortions and can't afford them. This is the phoniest and most preposterous argument of all. I represent the inner city where the majority of blacks and poor live, and I challenge anyone here to show me a waiting line of either blacks or poor whites who are wanting an abortion. Iowa State Representative June Franklin, Democrat, 1971.
From the beginning, it was obvious that racism was the driving force behind the eugenics movement. While it was true that from time to time these elitists and social engineers would toss a few lower-class whites in among the feeble-minded and worthless who should be bred out of society, it was also true that they never seemed to include blacks among the best and the brightest who should be bred in. And at the same time, the country was being saturated with calls for population control and family planning. The facilities to carry them out were pouring into the black community. After all, no one was suggesting that there were too many white people in the world. And realities like those did not go unnoticed by early civil rights activists. For them, the reason birth control and abortion were being pushed was not a secret.
Those whom we could not get rid of in the rice paddies of Vietnam, we now propose to exterminate if necessary, eliminate if possible, in the OB wards and gynecology clinics of our urban hospitals. Jesse Jackson, 1971.
Black people are the target of birth control, not because the ruling politicians like them and care about their economic equality, but because they hate them and can no longer use them in plantations and other cheap labor conditions. Muhammad Speaks, the Black Muslim newspaper, 1970.
I believe the entire question of abortions is just one more in a continuous series of events to eliminate the black population. Father George Clemens, Jet Magazine, 1973.
The abortion law hides behind the guise of helping women, when in reality it will attempt to destroy our people. Brenda Hyson, New York Chapter, Black Panther Party, July 1970.
The racist tells you to take birth control pills to kill, to murder life that might have existed if you had not. They are planning mass extermination of people they consider dispensable. Dan Keyes, Oakland Chapter, Black Panther Party, 1969.
A true revolutionary cares about the people. He cares to the point that he is willing to put his life on the line to help the masses of poor and oppressed people. He would never think of killing his unborn child. Detroit Chapter, Black Panther Party, 1970.
Who the hell is getting the pill? The Mexican and the Negro. Do you want to wipe us out? Cesar Chavez, 1967.
On the day after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, a memorial service was held at Howard University in Washington, D.C. As mourners left the auditorium, they encountered about 600 people attending a rally outside. Several speakers were heard warning the crowd that population control was being used as a weapon of black genocide. Among the speakers who gave this warning was noted civil rights activist Stokely Carmichael.
A year later, Pittsburgh police were called when 200 sticks of dynamite were discovered near a local Catholic church. An investigation revealed that the dynamite was not intended for the church, but was instead left behind by civil rights activist William Bowie Hayden. Hayden later admitted that he and his group, the United Movement for Progress, had planned to use the explosives to blow up nearby Planned Parenthood facilities because they were practicing black genocide. Hayden had once stated that any African American who supported allowing Planned Parenthood into black neighborhoods was an Uncle Tom.
Into the black community stepped Planned Parenthood. Only when they came into the black community, they become Planned Black Genocide. William Bowie Hayden, civil rights activist, 1971.
Among those associated with Hayden was an African American physician named Dr. Charles Greenlee. Greenlee had been a staunch supporter of Planned Parenthood, but became suspicious of the organization after noticing that black neighborhoods in his city were, as he described it, saturated with Planned Parenthood facilities, while nearby white neighborhoods that were just as poor did not have a single one.
In an article published by the black Muslim newspaper, Muhammad Speaks, Greenlee said he had also discovered that deceptive materials were being circulated in the ghettos and delivered to the homes of black women, warning them that welfare recipients who had additional children would lose their public assistance. Greenlee knew that wasn't true and concluded that Planned Parenthood was pushing a hidden agenda. It was then he severed his ties to the organization and started working against it.
The idea is to make less niggas so they won't have to build houses for them. If we keep producing, they're either going to have to kill us or grant us full citizenship. Dr. Charles Greenlee, civil rights activist, 1968. It is strange that they chose to start talking about population control at the same time that black people in America and people of color around the world are demanding their rightful place as human citizens and their rightful share of the material wealth in the world. Jesse Jackson, 1977.
It is interesting how everyone assumes that the pro-life movement in America began in 1973 with Roe v. Wade. But we who were around during the civil rights movement and struggle in the 1960s, we know that the first anti-abortion groups were organizations like the Black Panthers, the Nation of Islam, and other community organizations. These folks were speaking out against both birth control and abortion long before the contemporary pro-life groups of today existed. But one of the problems with the civil rights movement was that there was far too many men and women who were willing to sell out the community. And a lot of powerful, influential African Americans knew that they had to be willing to turn and look the other way in order to advance their own personal political agendas.
In 1972, those members of the Congressional Black Caucus, such as Charles Diggs, did not trust the abortion industry or those who were espousing population control or family health, and they were suspicious of them. But when the money began to flow, And just as it was with Jesse Jackson, when he found out that indeed he could get funding and monies to run for presidents from these people, he flip-flopped in his position. Because he once said abortion is black genocide. What happens to a mind of a person in the moral fabric of the nation that can abort a baby without a pang of conscience? Where will we be 20 years from today?
We'll be harassing people for digging in the damn garbage can.
He needed money to run for president. All of a sudden, the most important civil rights issue.
Or just continuing the genocide of the God, man, and woman on the planet. That's all that is.
The ban of abortion through a constitutional amendment. And in an interview in Jet magazine, he referred to abortion as genocide. But Jesse Jackson, on the other hand, wanted to become president. And the Democratic Party at that time had sold out completely to Planned Parenthood and the eugenics crowd. And Jesse Jackson went along to get along. And don't ever think that he was the only one. The unfortunate thing we face, whether we're talking about individuals or organizations, there's never been a shortage of black leaders who are willing to sell us down the river if it's enough money and political power in it for them.
I've been grappling with the fact that the NAACP is in bed with the very organization that has brought black genocide to our community. Dr. Alveda King, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, has tried on at least 3 occasions to bring to this organization's attention the black genocidal plot of people like Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood to exterminate the black community. And the stonewalling has been astounding. Alveda King literally has gone to the street along with myself to say to the NAACP, please deal with this issue of black genocide. The NAACP has responded by hiding and trying to prevent their convention goers to hear about black genocide. They've even gone to the extent of using buses to...
I want you guys to see something. Look at this.
To say to the NAACP...
You see that picture in that man's hand? That's a woman's uterus right there. Do you guys see that? Let me zoom in for you so you can see what I'm talking about. Look what that is. That's that uterus that I show you all the time. That the ancient combatant god and goddesses hold in their hand. That's the round part that'll be on the top. Up under the bottom will be the 2 polarities that go off to the side, and then the male phallus under the bottom. That's the reason why the ancient combatants carry that ankh, because it represents regenerative growth. That ankh is the representation of fertility and immortality, that life permeates forever, and the importance of the woman and how she is God's contribution to all the life forces of human and woman of the planet Earth. And so this is the reason why we can't have white men on the planet creating an education system that fails to include information that could be passed on to the woman that would teach her the importance of having a healthy ingest of sustainment, so that in her age around 40 or greater, she would not have these uterus problems where he could come in and try to get her to sign a contract and sell her a fake uterus and make her have to use some of her house as collateral to get it. All this evil that this man has done on this planet is just really messed up. And then what is really sad is that when you see these guys out here, the NAACP and everyone fighting abortions over black babies, they have the nerves to put a white baby in this uterus right here. It's so sad. It is so sad. These black people are out here fighting abortion of black babies. It's not a problem with white babies. It's black babies. And then when they give you the picture of the baby in the uterus, all the people riding by that see this is going to see a white baby. They won't even see the whole significance. The main subject is completely overlooked. And again, you get some white person taking another form of plagiarization. This is just ridiculous. I just can't. I don't know what to do. It's just everywhere you look. Every freaking way you look. That is just, I just fucking can't believe it.
is deal with this issue of black genocide. The NAACP has responded by hiding and trying to prevent their convention goers to hear about black genocide. They've even gone to the extent of using buses to block our demonstration about black genocide in front of Cobo Hall where their convention was going on. They have literally put black paper across their windows so that the convention goers at the NAACP convention could not see the demonstration going outside that included Alveda King. There is definitely a conspiratorial plot being hatched and has been hatched by the NAACP to keep from their people the fact that they are co-conspirators in the genocide of their own people.
When you look at the number of African Americans who portrayed us over the years, it's not always clear whether they are uninformed or just out-and-out traitors. When we see pro-choice politicians defending abortion on television, do they really understand the implications of abortion and that it is certainly used for black genocide?
Reverend Benjamin Hooks, one of the former presidents of the NAACP, once personally told me that the NAACP would not bring this subject to the floor because they believed it would tear up the NAACP. Even the media has conspired with the NAACP to keep this issue from the attention of the black community and the public at large. I have seen the news media literally hide their trucks so that they would not be in a position to have to cover the demonstrations in front of Cobo Hall, only to bring them out after the demonstrators had left. This is an outrage that the black community is having the life of its babies destroyed, and the NAACP and the media are knowingly conspiring to keep this information from the public. This is an outrage, and it should be dealt with by every fair-minded American.
Well, I tell you what, sir, I totally agree with you, but since every American seems to be on the side with the devil because they are all involved with the material privileges that they can accumulate from going along with him, we have Quasar on the sun. Because, see, God knew. And all right off the top, God was saying, now, you know, see, God is the sun. And he was saying, now, you know, I see them, and I see how materialistic they are. And then, you know something? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I bet you they probably even give money to those women down at Planned Parenthood to really push the deal through you killing this baby. Because, see, let me explain to you guys what's going on. All these babies that's killed in this Planned Parenthood facility are sacrifices. That's what they are. And the sacrifice is ordained between the black woman and the black man. You see, the black woman had to give her baby to the white man so he could sell her child all throughout slavery. Well, see, this is still being reenacted in these Planned Parenthood facilities when they go in there and have this child sucked out of their uterus. This is his greatest accomplishment. His hatred of the black man is so strong that nothing turns him on better, knowing that he can stop a black child before it's able to come out and do anything. That is the ultimate rush for this sadistic, this is a psychopath, racist, maniac, evil, devil, fascist, like about 1 million Hitlers.
The civil rights elite has forgotten the lives of unborn black children and has joined those who choose to kill them. Unbelievable! They have forgotten that in the past, racists snatched black babies from their mother's arms and sold them into slavery.
Told you.
Today they snatch them from their mother's womb and throw them in the garbage.
I can't believe the same thing I just said.
Ishmael Hernandez, executive
same
director,
freaking thing I just said. Can you believe that?
2003.
Oh my God! Same thing I just said.
Of civil rights leaders who sell out, even when they clearly know that birth control and abortion are being used for black genocide. We need to understand that by the 1960s, population control, especially black population control, had become almost a religion for America's white power structure. And from the start, they made it clear that if you crossed them, or if you challenged their agenda, they would chop you off at the knees. And that remains true to this day. Whether you're talking about the liberal social engineers who control the Democratic Party, or the wealthy elitists who control the Republican Party, or the media, or the academic community, these people have created a kind of family planning cartel that does not tolerate dissent. And they have always been especially ruthless about this when it comes to African Americans. A perfect example of this was seen in the case of Samuel Yet. Mr. Yet was an award-winning journalist who had earned a master's degree from Indiana University, was a U.S. Air Force veteran of the Korean War, and served as Special Assistant for Civil Rights to the Director of the U.S. Office of Economic Opportunity. He was also a professor of journalism at Howard University and a columnist for several magazines and newspapers. In 1968, Yet had become the first African-American reporter hired by Newsweek magazine, and he quickly became their Washington, D.C. Bureau correspondent. But then 3 years later, he wrote a book that exposed high-level plans within the United States to use birth control and abortion as instruments of black genocide. Then immediately after his book was released to the public, Yet was called into his supervisor's office and fired. At that meeting, he was informed that his dismissal had been orchestrated by the Nixon White House. The next year, Yet told the New York Times that pressure had been put on Newsweek to get him out of Washington. Then later, despite the fact that his book was selling well, had received at least 2 national awards, and was being used as a textbook in over 100 colleges, Yet's publisher dropped him and the book went off the market. What's important to recognize about this situation and others like it was that this family planning cartel was sending a message to those who might have influence within the African American community, whether they were politicians or journalists or college professors or civil rights leaders. They were being warned that when it comes to population control, they only had 2 options. They could either get on board with it or they could keep their mouths shut. And when people like Samuel Yet told them what they could do with their 2 options, they paid a price that few others had the character or the courage to pay.
The copyright to Samuel Yet's book was eventually given back to him. Then, in 1982, Yet used his own money to republish it. The foreword of that edition was written by a well-known civil rights activist and co-founder of both the Harlem Writers Guild and the National Cultural Committee of the NAACP. His name was John Oliver Killens, and in that foreword, he gave his analysis of the relationship between family planning and the black community.
The American ruling class had made a hard decision. Americans of African descent would either accept the miserable lot or die. The venerable Saturday Evening Post issued what might be termed as a white paper, in which it warned black America that they had better understand and accept the fact that absolute freedom and equality were not part of the game plan for them, and that the consequence of non-acceptance would be wholesale genocide. John Oliver Killens, 1982.
The minister's work is also important, and also he should be trained, perhaps by the Federation, as to our ideals and the goal that we hope to reach. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members.
In 1939, Margaret Sanger wrote that in a letter to fellow eugenicist Clarence Gamble regarding the American Birth Control League's Negro Project. Gamble was an heir to the Procter & Gamble fortune and a major financial backer of Sanger's. He also provided funding for other eugenics projects and even gave money directly to the North Carolina Eugenics Board that sterilized Elaine Riddick. In fact, in 1947, he called for the expansion of that state's sterilization program, saying that for every feeble-minded person sterilized, 40 more were polluting and degrading the bloodlines of future generations with their defective genes.
Sanger's letter makes it clear that the eugenics movement understood they would need to neutralize the opposition they might get from the church. They also knew that this would be especially crucial within the African American community. Their strategy was to manipulate church leadership into selling the illusion that support for eugenics was not inconsistent with the Christian faith. To do this, they would often recruit pastors to be frontmen for eugenics policies and provide them with prepackaged sermons on eugenics.
Okay, hold on. There's the bullshit again, okay? Because first of all, we already know that the pastors of the Christian churches have been doing nothing but selling lies, deception, and death to black people forever. So you ain't gonna come here and make me believe that all of a sudden they had to go and predispose these pastors to what their jobs are supposed to be in the whole mainstream, you understand, of killing black people. These black pastors know for a fact that as soon as they tell any person of the melanated race that if you accept Jesus as your God, all your answers will be, you know, given to you, and all your problems will be taken care of by Jesus. That is the worst crime, even worse than abortion. Abortion, believe it or not, is a more pleasing misfortune. Of the two, I'll take the latter. And the reason why is at least an aborted fetus does not have to go through life being misled and fooled by these bullshit Bishop Blakes. Trust me on that.